Valiantys. In this video, I'll go over the boards feature in Jira Service Management. The board feature in JSM was introduced earlier this year. Since its initial release, it has been given a huge upgrade. For those of you familiar in Jira Software, you will notice that it looks very similar to a type of board, which is a Kanban board. Let's dive in and see how you can use boards with JSM. By default, boards may not be enabled in your Service Management project. To check, go to Project Settings, go to Features, and then you'll see here, boards, just make sure that's toggled if you want that to be enabled. Once it's enabled, you will see it below the Queue section, so go ahead and click on Board, and here is your board. So let's just take a look at some out-of-the-box configurations. For out-of-the-box configurations, you start out with a search box, so you can search in for specific issues that are already on the board. You also have here that goes by assignee, so if I click on me, we can see here that the issue that I'm assigned right now that's in this filter is this issue right here. I can also sort by unassigned, which you see would take this out. You can also sort by status, so if I wanted to see any issues that are in review, we can see here that there's one issue. These up here do stack, so if I were to also click on a assign to me, we can see here that that does stack on top of the filter. So just be mindful when you're clicking on filters that if you're trying to find an issue and you can't find it, it could be because you have multiple filters activated at the same time. So clear that off. You can also then search by request type, and then quick filters, which we'll get into, which is more filters that could be more redefined that individuals could click on. To note, any type of filters you click on up here, these will only apply to you. They do not apply to anyone else looking at the board. They are just for your view only. But now, let's get into the configuration of the board. Once we're in the settings, you can name your board, and then you can also list the administrators. The administrators for the board will be who can actually make the configuration changes for this. You have your filter, so you can either select the filter that you already have, or if there's a filter that you already have and you want to slightly change it, you can click on Edit Query. It'll take you to that filter, you can make your modifications, save it, and you select it. Unlike Jira Software, where you can just type in a filter, for JSM you actually have to select the filter. But once you have your filter, you can even click on the filter details, and you'll be able to see that filter that's looking at. In Jira Service Management, it actually does let you add more than one project, so it'll also show you based on your filter query. It'll also show you the projects that are going to be in this board. Note that while you do put multiple projects on here, if other people are using the board and they do not have access to those projects, those issues will not be visible to them. So anyone who does have issue visibility to that project, they will see it, others won't. You can still add it though. Then you can also see here who is given the permission to modify that filter that you are using. And then just like in Kanban, we have a board subfilter, so this is an additional filter that is put on top of the original filter. This does apply to any user who's looking at the board. This is a global filter editing on that query. You can also then look at completed issues. So completed issues, this will be the time frame that you set to allow issues that are in a completed status to be visible on the board. This is especially helpful for if you have a type of project that is cranking out completed issues left and right, where instead of having, issues that were completed 6 weeks ago on your board, you can set to maybe you only want to display on that time issues that have been completed for the last week. So now we'll go ahead and take a look at columns. Columns are how the statuses are mapped. So this is how you essentially work these issues. So each status has a column that it is mapped to if you would like to move it across the board. So by default, you come with to do, in progress, and done columns. You can rename these, you can add more, but what you want to do is move those statuses into these columns. This allows you to transition an issue by simply dragging it over. If I have an issue that is going to be going to the approved status, because this is unmapped, it will not show those issues in this board. So if I wanted to transition it to this, I have to actually click on the issue, transition it to which then it would be hidden. But if I wanted to show those issues, I simply drag it over to the column I want, and now those issues will appear in that column. Your far right column is always going to be your done column. This is where any stats such as canceled, anything that sets a resolution, this is what is going to be in your last column. That way it signifies that the done status for those issues. You can also set a constraint. So say in how we have in progress, there is a lot of stats in here. That could mean that there's a lot of issues that rack up into this column. you can set an issue constraint so that way you can list exactly how many issues you only want to appear in that box. So that way you don't have 50 issues in one column. You can limit it to what you want to display. We have swim lanes. Swim lanes are a way to horizontally group issues rather than the vertical through columns. So it also applies it horizontally. So for swim lanes, you can do by request type, queries, assignee, or you can choose not to have a swim type at all. For swim lanes, when it comes to these ones, all it does is that it groups horizontally. So if we take a look and set to request types, we look here, and if I were to enable my swim lane, now it'll show me by request type. So we have the get IT help ones, we have broken hardware. So these group it by their request type. So it's a way to easily collapse information based off what you set here. And again, they can be based by queries, so you are very easily able to look at items at a glance with what you want to categorize it as. If you decide to do based on queries, you can click and you can add your own queries for it. So anything that doesn't apply into those swim lanes that you make, they'll just be under the category called everything else, which when you come to swim lanes, you can collapse those groups. So we go to quick filters. Quick filters are what I showed previously with how you have like the unassigned, you have the request type. These are filters that only apply for the users activating them. If someone activates them, it's not going to activate for everybody else. It's just an additional filter on top. This is especially helpful for when you have a project that you have multiple teams working out of. Say, in a project, you have a DevOps team and a help desk team. Rather than limiting the full board and the sub-filter to only cater to one group or the other, you can create quick filters that are only going to show issues that are for DevOps and then only show issues that are going to be for help desk. This allows them to filter issues and only see what's relevant to them and keep out what's not needed. And this is done via a JQL query. And you can create as many as you want, but only board administrators can create these quick filters. If we go to card colors allows you to tag a card with a color based on, you can do by request type, priorities, assignees, queries, or none. This allows at a very quick glance to visualize a group of issues with predefined colors. So as you saw when we initially showed the board, we were by request type, so anything with broken hardware had a highlighted color of brown. Anything that was a get IT help had a highlighted color of red. Card layout allows you to add up to 3 additional fields on a card's view. This will apply to all cards, all issues, no matter the issue type. So if you're working with multiple teams, you want to make sure that the fields that you're adding are relevant for everybody to give the most out of that display. The fields listed here can be system fields or any custom field. As we can see here, beer container supply to reorder is not a system field, that's a custom field that I made. So I want to display that, I can click that, and I can show it. What also you can do within card layout is you can do and enable days in column. This will show you how many days an issue has been in that column, which can help identify stale issues that should probably need to be reviewed, looked at, and taken action on. The last one, we have date settings. Date settings is something that is specific to Jira Service Management boards. These are date fields that allow you to designate the start and the end dates that connect to the calendar feature. So say if you don't want to use the default start date and you want to use date phone is needed by, this is going to take the field of date needed by and it's going to use that date to set the calendar. Same with end date. You can say instead of due date, maybe you want planned end date, and you hit save, and you will have those fields used. While I did mention that this was a Kanban board inside JSM, note that this is not an exact mirror. JSM does not include the Kanban backlog, it doesn't include working days or timelines. This also includes that it doesn't allow you to limit with the swim lanes and quick filters to sort by stories and epics. Those are features that are for Jira Software, not for Jira Service Management. So while the layout does look similar, there's going to be options that aren't going to be visible in Jira Service Management that you would see in Jira Software. The boards feature in JSM provides one of many ways for teams to work with issues within Jira Service Management. Boards are useful for providing that familiar way of working issues for users who are very familiar with Jira, but are still new to Jira Service Management. Give the boards feature a shot on your project and see if it can help aid in your day-to-day work. Thanks for watching.